Rash judgment is a prejudice whereby we make a judgment, or we form a judgment concerning any person or thing, before sufficient examination, and generally we suppose it to mean a false judgment or mistake. The obscurity of some truths, and the difficulty of searching them out, is one occasion of rash and mistaken judgment. This sort of prejudice, as well as most others, is cured by patience and diligence in inquiry and reasoning, and a suspension of judgment till we have attained proper mediums of knowledge, until we see sufficient evidence of the truth. Another prejudice is the appearance of things that appear in disguise. We are often tempted to judge suddenly according to outward appearances, for example, judging a book by its cover. We are tempted to form our judgment of persons as well by these outward appearances. Where there is wealth, riches, and splendor, we are all ready to call that man happy, but we do not see the vexing disquietudes of his soul. The cure for the prejudice of things appearing in disguise is that we should restrain our forwardness to form an opinion of persons or things before we have opportunity to search them out more perfectly. All is not gold that glitters, and a rough diamond may be worth an immense sum. It was through the prejudice of appearance that the Jews rejected our blessed Savior. They could not allow themselves to believe that the man who appeared as the son of a carpenter was also the Son of God. And because the Apostle Paul was of little stature, of mean presence, and his voice contemptible, some of the Corinthians were tempted to doubt whether he was inspired or not. Another prejudice that causes us to judge amiss is when we see a mixture of different qualities in the same thing. Oftentimes we are ready to be carried away by the quality that strikes us the first and gives the strongest impression upon us, and we often judge the whole object according to that quality, regardless of the rest. When we have just reason to admire a man for his virtues, we are sometimes inclined not only to neglect his weaknesses, but sometimes even to put a good color upon them, and to think them good. If an author has professed heretical sentiments in religion, sometimes we throw scorn upon everything he writes, whether it's even just critical or mathematical learning. The cure for this sort of prejudice is relieved by learning to distinguish things well, and not to judge in the lump. We should remember that some persons have great wit and little judgment. Others are judicious, but not witty. There is many a man who thinks admirably well, but who has poor utterance, while there are others who have charming manner of speech, their thoughts are trifling and impertinent. Some are good neighbors, and courteous and charitable toward men, who have no piety toward God. Others are truly religious, but have morose, natural tempers. We should learn to distinguish well, and not to judge in the lump. Another prejudice is the different lights and views in which a thing may be placed. Sometimes when we survey the miseries of mankind, and we think upon the sorrows of millions, both on earth and in hell, the divine government of God seems to have a terrible aspect, and we may be tempted to hardly think even of God himself. But if we view the profusion of his bounty, grace, and mercy amongst his creatures on earth, or the happy spirits in heaven, we shall have so exalted an idea of his goodness as to forget his vengeance. The true method of delivering ourselves from this prejudice is to view a thing on all sides, to compare all the various appearances of the same thing with another, and let each of them have its full weight in the balance of our judgment before we determine our opinions. If we take the same just and religious survey of the great and blessed God, in all the discoveries of his vengeance and mercy, we shall at last conclude him to be both just and good. Another prejudice is often the casual association of many of our ideas. There's been many a child who has vaccination shots. He joins the idea of pain and medicine together because he thinks of his pain. Medicine that makes us nauseated soon colors all other medicines to be nauseous. The cure for the casual association is to consider whether there be any natural or necessary connection between those ideas which fancy, custom, or chance hath joined together. And if nature hath not joined them together, let our judgment separate those ideas again.